The Sun Devils' offensive line looks 10 times better than it did last year, but is it going to dictate the 2024 season?
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast. Stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrats36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts. As of today, Tuesday, July 23rd, we are at 826 subscribers. We've seriously hit like 50 subscribers in the last month. If you would be willing to hit that subscribe button, we'll find a way to celebrate. I am open to suggestions. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down. Sports just aren't sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back in. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the Sun Devils offensive line, and this is a unit that I think is a lot better than what we saw last year. And before you kind of go to the conclusion of well, Richie, obviously it's better than last year because last year they weren't able to protect the quarterback and the run game averaged under 4 yards per carry and blah, blah, blah. You also have to understand that this was probably the most injury-riddled group on the team. And ASU was getting to a point where Kenny Dillingham literally said to ASU students, hey, if you want to try out for the team, come try out. We need bodies right now. Injuries devastated this team. There was plenty of talent, but you can only do so much for your offensive line when you are down 10 plus starters. And that was the case that Arizona State got to last year. Now, as always, with this prediction series, we are under the assumption that this unit is going to be 100% healthy for the entirety of the 2024 season. This is a unit that has a lot of intrigue to it as well. There's new players, there's returning players, there's guys that you look at and you're like, ooh, you have my attention. I feel like you could be a breakout guy. And then, of course, you have your plug and play starters. And that's where we'll start our conversation, is taking a look at those plug and play players for the team. In my opinion, there are three guys that you look at them and you go, you're a starter, you're a starter, you're a starter. Starting with the most obvious is Leaf Futanu. Leaf played center for the team last year. He played every game. He played through any bang-ups that he had, and he played at a very high level. Leaf is somebody that I truly believe in my heart of hearts could end up being a all-conference player in the Big 12 by the end of the year. This is a very, very quality football player. And sure, there's a little bit of bias because he did jump on the show. If you haven't checked that episode out, go ahead and check it out. It's under our player interviews tab on YouTube. But Leaf as a player is a very high quality guy. This is consistency that he provides for you. This is high level play that he provides for you. And it's going to be very important that he's able to continue doing that this year because of the newness that you have at quarterback, which we'll talk about later on in the podcast. Your second plug and play guy is Ben Coleman at left guard. Coleman didn't play last year. He was dealing with a leg injury. It ended up keeping him out for the season. He's back. He's healthy. He was an all Pac-12 player at Cal Berkeley before he transferred to Arizona State last year. He is going to be plug and play. This is a high-level player, similar to Leaf. He's a proven player, and he's going to have to compete for sure. You're off for a year of football. ASU has a ton of depth. You're going to compete. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. With that being said, he's the most proven guy in the guard room, left or right side, whatever. He's the definition of a plug and play guy. As long as he's healthy and as long as he picks up where he left off, he's plug and play. The last plug and play guy for me is Josh Atkins at left tackle, the transfer from Hawaii. He's got a lot of playtime experience during his time with the Rainbow Warriors. Color me shocked, and stop me if you've heard this before. He played at a high level, so he's coming to Arizona State after playing at a high level in a different conference. He is plug and play until further notice. That doesn't mean he's going to start all 12 or 13 or 15 games, but it does mean that at the start of the year, when they reveal their starting five, I 100% believe that he is going to be the starting left tackle. ASU has a lot of intriguing guys that they could start at left tackle, one of whom we'll talk about in just a moment. But Atkins is a very high floor player. He's a very safe player, somebody that you throw in the lineup and you go, I just know that he's going to be a reliable guy. Those are your three plug and plays for me. I have three guys who really have my attention, though. The first, if you listen to this podcast, you know exactly who I'm going to be talking about, is Bram Walden. Walden transferred last year from Oregon. He was a former four-star recruit out of Arizona. I do not remember where he played high school ball off the top of my head, and I don't have it in front of me. He is, in my opinion, the most exciting offensive lineman on this team. He's got as high a ceiling as anybody else. He projects for the next level. If he's ever able to get healthy, which was part of the problem last year, is he wasn't able to stay healthy, and he's able to take all of the raw physical talent that he has, put it together, and become the upside player that he is. And this is a big year for Bram Walden, and it's going to be a year where he's going to have to compete. I don't know if left tackle is a possibility right now because of Josh Atkins and the other depth that ASU has, but right tackle is an open competition, and Walden should be competing as hard as he can to play at either side of the offensive tackle position. Walden, one of the most exciting guys for me. Second guy I have here, and another guy that I'm really excited about, is Jalen Clem, transferring from Washington. He was a part of what ended up being an offensive line that won the Joe Moore Trophy last year, which is the best offensive line in the country for the Huskies. He kept Michael Penix upright. He's coming to Arizona State. He's a flex guy. You can play him at tackle, or you can kick him inside the guard. That's where the most intrigue is for me, is Jalen Clem being someone that you can kick inside, because there's a lot of depth at tackle, and guard is a wide open competition. So if you're not able to find a spot for him at tackle, knowing that you can move him inside is something that I think is going to be very key and very critical this year. And ASU does have a handful of guys that have the ability to move inside and outside. I think Clem might be the highest upside guy. The last intriguing player for me, at least most intriguing, is Maxi Onaker. I look at him, and similar to Bram Walden, I think he has one of the highest ceilings for this team as a true right tackle. He's big, he's strong. When he was healthy and on the field last year, you could tell that he was adjusting. He was a JUCO transfer. You still see those raw gifts and talents that he has. And you look at that and you go, he might be something. There might be something here. He's another, like Bram Walden, he is a very high upside player. I would specifically keep him on the right side. Now, there's a lot of key returners that are coming to the team. I've got 4 guys listed. We'll start with the interior of the line, which is Kyle Scott and Cade Briggs. Two guys who should be competing for that right guard spot. I think if the season started today, Kyle Scott is probably your starting right guard, and Cade Briggs would be your number one backup at the center position, but another guy who can move to guard. Bottom line is they're really, really important pieces for the team. They could both be starters, or at worst, they're your sixth offensive lineman or your seventh offensive lineman, or just the key critical depth to the team that you have if somebody doesn't play well or if someone gets injured. Those are two of the guys that you're calling up first. Emmett Bully. Bully was your starting right tackle last year through a game and a half before he had a devastating leg injury that knocked him out of the air. It was a freak injury against Oklahoma State. He's back, he's healthy, and he's going to have every shot to retain the starting position at right tackle. And similar to what I said about Kyle Scott probably being the starting right guard, if you ask me today who it is, I would lean towards Emmett Bully being your starting right tackle. It'd be between him and Ioniker, in my opinion. Those are the two guys that I think are your right tackles, but as long as Emmett stays healthy, he is a high-quality player and a high-floor player. Last guy that's a key returner for me is Sean Na'a. Na'a was a right guard for you last year. He was solid. He was a freshman, so he had some highs and he had some lows. He was forced to left tackle against Utah because Isaiah Glass entered the transfer portal in the middle of the week, like 2 days before ASU went off to Salt Lake City. He decided to enter the portal. And Kenny Dillingham told Sean, he was like, hey, man, you're the starting left tackle. He's definitely someone that is more suited for the inside, but having that experience of playing off the edge and going up against tough competition, because he went up against Jonah Ellis, who is playing in the NFL now. I really like that. And I like that there is that possibility here for him to potentially be, again, like I said, for Scott and Briggs, like to be a sixth offensive lineman for the team. And you bring out heavy sets, and Na'a is the guy who gets the call for you. I'm excited about him. Key newbies, obviously, I mentioned Jalen Clem. I mentioned Josh Atkins are two of the big newbies, but I wanted to bring attention to two freshmen, which is Champ Westbrooks, another friend of the podcast, and Terrell Kim. Westbrooks is moving from guard to tackle, is what he told me, is what he was told by the Sun Devil staff. He is under 300 pounds right now, so there's going to be a lot of bulking up for him to do. And I don't know if we see a lot of him this year, but Champ could end up being a key fixture of the offensive line for years to come. Terrell Kim, the highest graded recruit coming in along the offensive line for the Sun Devils. He's already like 330, 340 pounds. He's a guy that could very well end up being one of your starting guards at some point during the year. If it's injuries, if it's due to, just trying to mix things up, Terrell Kim is one of the first guys that I believe is going to get a call to compete for a starting opportunity for the team. But, I mean, we just talked about like 10 guys, and there's more than that along the offensive line, which is where we're going to jump into the question of can they be better than last year? We'll answer that in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I love sports. I love them so much. I don't want them to stop, but the playoffs are over and we're getting fewer games. All the sports just aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Wherever you get your podcast, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day And if you have not subscribed on YouTube yet, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts. We're adding 4 or 5 subscribers every single day. You guys are the MVPs of this podcast. If we're able to get to 1,000, we will absolutely find a way to celebrate. Back into our conversation, though, and taking a look at this offensive line. The question I pose, can they be better than last year? And again, I know what a lot of people are going to say is, of course they can. The bar's really low. They were bad last year. But again, like to reiterate this point, they were injured last year. It's really difficult to have a good grasp on whether they were good or whether they were bad when 12 different offensive linemen were getting significant playing time. I'm just eyeballing it. I don't know if it was 12 for sure. Maybe it was more, maybe it was less. They had, fun fact, if you didn't know this, a different starting 5 every single game. Every single game last year, it was a different starting 5 for the team. You may have had the one constant, of course, being Lee Fotanu at center. But you could have had Richie Bradshaw starting at right guard in week 1, and then he disappeared for 4 weeks and then was back in week 9 kind of thing. It was a different starting lineup every single game. It's difficult. So sure, you could say the bar is low for the team, but there's a lot of stipulations and a lot of things that you have to consider and take into account when talking about the line last year. But can they be better? Absolutely. Absolutely they can. First of all, this is an offensive line that is ridiculously deep. We just talked about X amount of players. I have the count in front of me. We talked about 12 different players, and there's more guys than that are returners, that are newcomers, that are potential starters for the team. There's a lot of depth here. You're too deep, in my opinion. I think that this offensive line, you could do a different starting lineup for every game again this year, but I don't think it would be out of necessity like it was last year. Last year, you were shuffling your lineup because guys just weren't healthy, and that's tough to do. This year, as long as everyone's healthy, and as of right now, everybody is healthy, you could go in and you could say, Emmett Boley is going to start at right tackle for this many games, and then we're going to try out Max Yoniker for this many games. And then we're going to get Sean Na'a some opportunities at right tackle. And then we're going to get Jalen Clem at right tackle. But then we're going to move him to guard. Like, you could do all sorts of different combinations with this line. And I think that it's a very, very good thing. Obviously, you don't want to do it. I'm of the belief that you start your best 5. You figure out your spots later on. You start your best 5. ASU can do that. They can start their best 5 offensive linemen. And you've got guys who can move inside, who can move outside. You've got the depth at key positions. So right tackle, there's a lot of depth at right tackle. Ioniker, Emmett Boley, potentially Champ Westbrooks, depending on how far along he's going to end up being. ASU has depth at right tackle. It's a very beautiful thing that they have for themselves. Jalen Clem could be there. Having that depth is so pivotal for the team. If health happens, if somebody's not playing well, you can slide someone in. It's a beautiful thing to have. Another thing that is so important here, and this might be the most important thing when it comes to talking about the offensive line, is you have veterans at every single spot. You've got a veteran left tackle with Josh Atkins, Bram Walden is another veteran. Right tackle, Emmett Boley is a veteran. Max Yoniker is a veteran. Inside at guard, Ben Coleman, Cade Briggs, Kyle Scott, key veterans. Lee Fotanu, key veteran at center. You could roll out an offensive line. You could roll out a starting 5 and have guys who have 2 to 3 or more years of experience playing those positions. That is huge for your team. You're not rolling out 5 freshmen with some guys who weren't full-time starters in high school. You're not rolling out with a bunch of young guys who you have no idea if they're ready, if they need a redshirt year, if they're at the wrong position. You have guys who are proven, guys who are entrenched in college football at this point. That's big. So you don't even have to start your young guys. Terrell Kim, Champ Westbrooks, Samesi Tonga, like they don't necessarily need to see the or not Samesi Tonga. He transferred. Celesi Manu is who I meant. You don't necessarily need to get those young guys out there. You can roll with a ton of veterans instead and feel good about it. But you could roll with the young guys if you wanted to. You could roll out Champ Westbrooks and Terrell Kim. And apparently it's not Samisi Tonga either. I can't remember who our other younger guy is. Bottom line, you could roll out those guys. You could roll out some of the redshirt freshmen too that are back from last year. You could roll out. No, I'm not crazy. Samesi Tonga is on this team. I don't know what I'm talking about. You could roll out Kiana Pete. You could roll out Makua Poole. There's younger guys that you could use. Guys that are exciting. Guys that are talented. This is an offensive line that you feel good about, whether it's rolling with veterans or whether it's rolling with the young guys. Bottom line, though, I like what you got. I think it's a very deep unit. I think it's a talented unit. Last question we got to ask, though, is it going to dictate the season? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. One more time, wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. And if you have not hit subscribe on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts, and we'll find a way to celebrate. I am open to suggestions. As we wrap up the show, we have one big question. Will they dictate the season? Will this offensive line be the reason that you're a really good offense or a really bad offense? I think you would lean towards the former. And the reason why is I have 3 things here that are listed. We'll start with the biggest reason, though. You got a lot of uncertainty at quarterback. You got a really young guy who's probably your starter in Sam Leavitt, who has 4 career games under his belt at Michigan State last year. He is a redshirt freshman, 4 games. He's a high upside guy. You don't know what you've got with him just yet. He could end up being a really good player. He could end up being somebody that needs help to get to that point. He could come out as a redshirt freshman and blow up, or he can come out as a redshirt freshman and need time to develop a little bit. You could roll with the veteran guy that they brought in as a transfer, Jeff Sims. That's it. You could roll with Jeff Sims. You could roll with Trenton Bourget, 2 guys who are veterans but haven't had as much success collegiately as you might like them to have. But the quarterback position, it's going to need a lot of help this year. Sure, you've got receivers. Sure, you've got a run game, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the offensive line is going to be so big for whether or not these quarterbacks have success this year. If the offensive line is able to play well, then yeah, you're going to have much better success. You're going to have cleaner pockets for Sam Leavitt so that he can scan the field a little bit better. You're going to be able to provide him protection so he's not getting knocked down, so that he's not getting sacked. Like, it's It's about giving Leavitt the time. It's about keeping his jersey clean. It's about keeping him standing up and not picking him up off the ground. These are things that are going to really help him mentally. Processing is having that ability to know, hey, I've got 3-4 seconds before I need to really make an adjustment. I've got a guy at left tackle who I know is going to keep my jersey clean. I've got interior linemen who I know are going to be able to keep those defensive tackles honest. It does a lot for a young quarterback. It does a lot for veteran quarterbacks who haven't had as much success. It's different when you have somebody who has seen it all and done it all. But especially for Sam Leavitt, you need somebody. You need an offensive line. You need a unit that is going to give him time and allow him to build up that confidence from a mental standpoint that he has time to scan the field, to deliver passes, and not have to worry about getting knocked down. You also need an offensive line to provide you with an ability to run the football. Last year, ASU had really good running backs, but they were under 4 yards a carry as a team collectively. That's just not going to work this year. The run game is the strength of this team. When you've got 6 different players and any of them you could say is your starter and you would feel good about it, they're going to need help. If you can't run the football effectively this year, it's going to make everything so much more difficult. The passing game has weapons. You've got Troy O'Mary, you've got Jordan Tyson, you've got Shimon Mateer. But you need this run game to keep opposing defenses honest. You need to have all 3 levels of the field open to you in the passing game. And part of getting that set up is having a run game that is able to take defenses and allow the offense to not see a stacked box, right? You can suck in the defense, but the moment that they start to do that, well, now you can start attacking down the field. Okay, well, now they're dropping 7 guys into coverage. Well, now you can run the ball more efficiently. The key to a balanced offense is, or the key to success this season is having a balanced offense. But the offensive line needs to be able to run block at a very high level, mind you. The run game is going to be so important for the offensive success this year. But they need the help, which is where the offensive line is more pivotal than the run game. The run game is the strength, but they need somebody to be able to help them reach their potential. And that's where the offensive line comes in. Final point that I had here is you're just dramatically improved from last year, from a health standpoint, from a talent standpoint, from a depth standpoint. You are much more talented than you were last year. You're much deeper than you were last year. You're much healthier than you were last year. That comes with expectations. You are going to be looking at this unit and you're going to be saying, hey, you're better now. You got to step up. You got to hold your end of the bargain. You got to carry your weight. If they do that, you're going to have a dramatically better season on the offensive side of the football. You can go from being one of the worst offenses in football to a much more average offense in football. And who knows, maybe you can be better than that. But you're talking about a dramatic change. And it hinges on the offensive line. If they're able to do their job, they keep Sam Leavitt up. They open up holes for Cameron Scadaboo, for Raleek Brown, for DeCarlos Brooks. They allow the run game to do their thing. So now Troy O'Mary and Jordan Tyson and Jake Smith and Melcon Stovall are getting one-on-one opportunities And that clean pocket allows Sam Leavitt to deliver some really good footballs to them. It all hinges on the offensive line. In my opinion, yes. The season will largely depend on the offensive line. Even if you include the defense is going to be good. And we'll talk about them more in detail throughout the week. They need to be able to have breaks and rest. They didn't have that last year because the offense couldn't do anything. So the defense was left high and out to dry. And they got tired and they weren't able to play at a high level consistently because they're tired. They need breaks. The best way to do that is have a sustained drive on offense. Have those 5-6 minute drives. Be able to get first downs. Give the defense rest. And they're going to play better. They're going to continue to play at a high level. It's going to depend on the offensive line. Because there's a lot of 3 and outs that the Sun Devils could face if the offensive line is letting Sam Leavitt get knocked down or the offensive line is not able to run block. As a whole, the offensive line could very well dictate the season for the offense definitively, but maybe for the whole team. But I want to know what you guys think of the offensive line. Who's your starting 5? Who are you really excited about? Let me know in the comments, or you can hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrats36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils, wherever you're getting your shows. Hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. One more time, if you have not subscribed on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers before the season starts. We find a way to get to that number, we'll find a way to celebrate. I don't know off the top of my head if there's anything that really stands out to me. We could do a 40-yard dash. We could do a ice bucket challenge, but I'm open to suggestions. If you guys can think of a way that we can celebrate together for hitting that milestone, drop a comment and let me know. We'll be back tomorrow as we take a look at the defensive line. I'll see you there. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.